Neal, there you are, Neal, in Portugal. Can you hear me, mate?
Yes, I can. How's it going?
Absolutely appallingly, Neal. I'm not even in Portugal, so I can't be happy about that. Can you give me some flavour of positivity after that?
I'm afraid I can't. No, I'm actually not surprised by this at all, to be honest. I think the writing's been on the wall for a while. And when we play teams like this, there's a big difference between the SPL and the EPL. We all know that. But this Ipswich, in particular, those two games stand out. And Bournemouth tonight played a simple 4-4-2, and we just couldn't penetrate it at all. And every time they counter-attacked, they severely exposed us, and they looked like they could potentially score. So I think 1-0 is a very kind scoreline. It could have easily been 4 or 5 against us. But I'm not. I think the days are numbered for Ange now, unfortunately, at this point.
So basically, you're one of a few people who've been saying the days are numbered for Ange. Let's say Ange was to go. Where would you be looking next, Neal?
Well, I think we missed the boat now with Amorim. I think he could actually turn Manchester United and perhaps.
But hold on, I know it's a bit early, but did you watch Man United last night? It was basically Conte ball. It was basically it was just Conte ball. He plays, plays a 3 at the back, and it was very slow and stodgy. Not that we were much worse tonight, to be fair. But
okay, I did not say that. I don't know. I think coaches that spring to mind would be Thomas Frank.
Yes, I was thinking about him earlier, actually.
Yeah, he pops into my mind. He's done a fantastic job there. And
do you know why I like Thomas Frank? Is because when he took Brentford up from the Championship, he had them playing like this beautiful style of football. And then he got in the Premier League. He was like, well, we're not good enough to do that in the Premier League. So he adapted and played more direct and got the players into work like that. And then is kind of slowly trying to kind of move it back that way. So it's horses for courses. Whereas what you'd say about, Conte and Mourinho, there's only one way of playing. And there's only one way of playing the total opposite way. And maybe next time, I'm not going to go so far as to say that it's Ange out for me, but as and when, and there will be a next time that we have to find someone, I think it needs to be someone who, yes, is wanting to play attacking, entertaining football, but in games where you can't do that, like tonight against a team playing 4-4-2, who just want to stodge it up and hit us on the break, don't play into their hands, do something different.
Something I've noticed as well, there's a pattern within our games. We obviously dominate possession for the most part, but when the players aren't having their way, when we're not converting, when we're not being successful, there's a deterioration in the quality of football. And you guys have spoken about it already. That deterioration leads to, and tonight in particular, the Bournemouth players just breezing past us with ease. Our guys looking despondent, them creating a ton of chances. So we kind of lose our way. And then Ange makes a ton of substitutions in the dying 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
we lose our shape. We lose any sort of coherency that we did have, and it just falls apart.
And to be honest, there was no real coherence, I don't think, in that team. I mentioned it earlier in the watch line. I really felt, not for any fault of our own, but that was very much like a Europa League picked team, wasn't it? A team of half and halves, basically, half players who are in the first team and half players who are not. So that does make it difficult. Of course it does. But that is the key to what Ange needs to be in the Premier League. He needs to find ways to win games, even without his first choice 11. If he doesn't do that, then, it's on him. And I have to ask you a question. Do you think Levy now looks a little bit like he's got egg on his face from not taking Pochettino back when he appointed Postecoglou?
My God, we should have taken him back. That man, in my opinion, could have built an absolute dynasty at Tottenham. We did not listen to him.
Agreed.
It's too late now. It's done. We can't. It's not going to happen. Very, very sad. But I think if we lose convincingly to Chelsea this weekend, which is a possibility, I actually think that could be it.
But it's more likely, isn't it, that Spurs will win now? It'll be, it's more likely
possible.
Because of the way that we are, that we'll turn up and turn them over somehow. Although, frankly, Ben Davies getting injured tonight will ruin any chance of any balance in that back line. Let's go through some of the comments together, Neal. Tom says players are letting him down at the moment. He'll turn it around. Back Ange in January. Trophies are coming. So some positivity there. What I would say is, if we were able to give Postecoglou some actual spine, some real like leadership and physicality in central midfield, then I think that would really improve things. However, so difficult to get players out their clubs in January. As an earlier caller said, very unlikely that Levy will open the purse strings in January or bring any budget forward from next summer to do it. So what, with Ange, unless he were to get that, it's very difficult to see these games when we come up against teams kind of just really easily blowing us over, basically. And even though it was only 1-0, just really easily just out-tacticking Ange, I think. It's hard to see that changing, isn't it?
Yeah, Ange has his set tactics and he does not deviate from it. He does some subtle changes every now and then, but I think we've been found out. Ever since the Chelsea game of last season, it's been very much the same. Inconsistency and teams knowing how to play against us. And Ange has had all of that time, which is in effect a full season, to present alternatives, and he hasn't. So that's why I'm in the camp. Unfortunately, I'm in the camp for Ange out now at this point.
I just want to go into a comment from Triple J here. Again, he says, with the Poch romanticizing, he had double the talent than Ange's team and he won nothing. Let me repeat, nothing. I'll put that on the screen even. Now, I find that really interesting because what that totally takes away from is any potential idea that actually it was because of Pochettino that those players became the players that they became. So you think of some of the players that were already there when Pochettino arrived, right? Vertonghen, Lloris, Dembele, right? 3, just off the top of my head, right? Let's add in Kyle Walker and Danny Rose, right? They were players who were thoroughly underperforming their potential previously, under Villas-Boas, under Sherwood. Pochettino came in, and do not forget, anyone, he was the fullback whisperer. We all talked about him as the fullback whisperer because every fullback that he had, he made 50% a better player. Kyle Walker and Danny Rose had long England careers because of Maurizio Pochettino. So if you think it's just as simple as Pochettino came in and had this amazing squad, no, Eriksen had started okay for Spurs, but under Pochettino, Eriksen made the most of his potential in the Premier League, right? And Harry Kane, there's an argument to suggest that Harry Kane might not have become the player he became had it not been for Pochettino eventually getting him in his side. So I don't think you can be as simple as like, Pochettino, inherited this great side and won nothing. We got to a Champions League final. Listen, I'm sorry to rant on here, Neil, but listen, nobody in any of our lifetimes thought we would make it to a Champions League final. I'm sorry, it's pie in the sky stuff. So don't talk about Pochettino like he lost everything. He made it to a Champions League final, and in that final, he started in central midfield because he had no choice. Moussa Sissoko and Harry Winks. Maurizio Pochettino was a brilliant manager. And that's why I brought up the question to Neil, should we maybe have taken him back? And we are finally now in the middle of the painful rebuild that Pochettino asked for 6 years ago. And so Ange is kind of suffering from the fact that we're having to turn over so many players. And there is a part of me, just to go back to Ange, that does think if we can get him the players he wants, some physicality in that spine, maybe then his way of playing can work. But I do fear for him. I really do fear for him. Anyway, Steve Bolden says that simply wasn't good enough. Ange is not up to the job. I don't know who comes in, but it needs to be quick because we're in free fall. Ange has been backed by over £300 million. I don't think he has had £300 million, has he? But he spent a bit of money. Just a lot of people talking about Pochettino now, but I'm trying to get off that now a little bit. Here we go. Charles Peston says Pedro Porro almost scored, if not for a wonder save tonight. I guess he's talking about the half volley that came out from the corner. That was a great strike. Porro does have brilliant technique. We need to get him in more positions just outside the box, Neil, don't we? Yeah, we do. And I also think that, he can get himself into very threatening positions. But I do think the inverted full back experiment, and that is what Ange is all about, it's just not functioning right now. I tend to think they get in each other's way, whether it be Udogie getting in the way of Son or Porro getting in the way of someone else up front. It's crowded,
and it's just not functioning. So I'm not a fan of that. It functioned for 10 games, 9 games, because it was new.
It's been found out, hasn't it, Neil? It's been found out.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier. It's like Bournemouth, you know, they played the narrow 4-4-2 and was like, well, you're going to come inside, so we're going to let you come inside, and there are going to be loads of bodies there, and you won't be able to play through us.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Neil. Sorry, I'm a little bit ranty. Walter James Donaldson, thanks for your message. Says has no real clue how to change a plan. The players are good, but we're playing like amateurs. Neil, just before I let you go, I really appreciate you staying on with me. What is there any positivity to take going into Chelsea? Is it as simple as like what you see a lot on social media, where it'd be like, make this make sense, win 4-0 at Man City, lose 1-0 at Bournemouth, beat Chelsea?
Well, if you go back to that City game, and if you look at 3 of the 4 goals that we scored, they absolutely gifted us those goals. You know, Jack Grealish gave the ball away in midfield. We scored. I think it was Gareth Dial who kind of screwed up on one of them as well. And we got City at the perfect time to have that victory. Plus, we're their bogey team.
Yeah.
So I really do not know. I think, you know, you'd really want to have the likes of Romero and Van der Ven back to stand, and Bentancur, and we know that those guys are not available to stand any sort of chance against Chelsea. But you never know. I think the odds are certainly stacked for a Chelsea win. But yeah.
Yeah, hard not to see Cole Palmer absolutely ripping us to shreds, but let's see what happens. Neil, thanks so much for talking. Really appreciate it, mate.